if you plan to adopt AI in your organization, do not only work on the objective aspects, which are critical, of course, but also on the psychological assistance and empowerment of the employees.
Hey everyone, it's Samaya El-Sherbini from Opus Talent Analytics, and this is the Executive Corner, the podcast that focuses on the future world of work. The topic of future of work has been really trending, if I can use that word, and a lot of people are trying to understand what that really means, the impact of that on the workforce, the impact of that on businesses, how generational changes will continue people work and live their life. And actually, there are new terms that are upcoming and rising continuously around this. So there's a very, very big trend or word called workism. And workism, basically, the previous generations used to commit their life towards work. So work very long hours, do one or sometimes even multiple jobs a day. So that is trending and moving away from the generational aspect. In addition to that, there was always that notion and that confusion around work-life balance. A new term called portfolio life is actually now trending. And what portfolio life means is that the more you understand your priorities, the more time you dedicate to the things that matter the most to you. Work is absolutely one of them. We all have to work, earn a living, and careers are important and all that. But also there are certain things that are also important for us, like having a sense of purpose, like priorities, mental health, and so forth. And so what better guests today to talk to us a little bit about the behavioral aspects and the behavioral science that's associated with work and life and lifestyle in general, but the excellent expert, Dr. Laura Aimrich French. And Dr. French is an expert in behavioral science. She focuses on emerging technologies, and she's got an amazing company in the UAE called Axazest. And today, Laura is going to be talking to us about all the different things around behavioral aspects that influence the way we work, the way we live, our mental and well-being. And yeah, let's hear it from the experts today. So delighted to have Laura. She's written more than 50 papers, and so we're going to hear a lot of very interesting things today. So Laura, let me welcome you. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
So I want to start out by asking you the very basic question. What does the future of work really mean for you?
Well, for me, as you know, my background is in well-being, behavioral transformation, but also in emerging technologies. And definitely, what we are seeing at the moment is that we are transitioning to the age of AI democratization. And this change is going to affect in all levels of the society, including work and the future of work. So in this sense, I think we're going to experience the biggest change in seeing how AI will transform our workplace, our positions. There's a lot of hesitation, fears around that, and it's totally understandable. But something that I normally explain is what we are experiencing with AI as a society in general, which I think it helps understand very well what we are, what we are experiencing, not only as a society, but also at work at an individual level. And normally, I take as an example the conscious competence learning model to explain this parallelism, and saying that as a society and at a personal level, at an organizational level, we are experiencing a learning process with AI. So basically, let's say a couple of years ago, most of us were not aware that these powerful AIs existed. And basically, when you start a learning process in the first level, you just don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know that something exists, you are not concerned about it or like willing to learn about it. But then we move to the second level, which is when we find out that something exists. And in realizing that something exists that we didn't know if it existed before is when we can experience different reactions. So some people get excited, some people get scared. And this explains very well what we are experiencing with AI at the moment. So some people quickly got excited and now they want to adopt, excuse me, AI in the organization at the personal level, but some others are a bit more scared and reluctant to use AI. But then the ideal situation is that because AI is gonna get implemented massively in the society, whether we like it or not, the best that we can do, in my opinion, is to move quickly into the next level. In this next level, we let's say we understand something and we still need to focus on that. But why is it important to move to this next level of competence? It's because when we evaluate something from the fear, maybe we won't take the best decisions. However, if we are not afraid and we understand very well the difference between risk and fear, then we are able to evaluate the real risk and opportunities from a more balanced approach. So in this sense, I think the future of work will be more into this next stage in which people will move and to have a better understanding of AI. It will be a more natural part of our lives, similar to how it happened, for instance, with the internet or with the smartphones or with most biggest changes that we've seen. And in this new age, let's say in some years, once AI feels a natural or a normalized technology to have, I think also like mastering it, we will be able to understand better like, the real risks and opportunities rather than being afraid of it. So this is, I
Yeah.
think,
Oh, very interesting. And I want to use the word that you picked very carefully, the word consciously. So consciously, I think that's a really interesting word. And for me, I guess the question is, if I'm a business owner or if I'm a person who is a business decision maker, I want to be conscious of these things. So are there certain things that I should be looking out for that help me understand, are we moving in the right direction organizationally or not?
I think it's very important to understand as an organization that adopting AI is not only about taking objective, or let's say like the typical actions are normally oriented to, let's say, provide training or consulting experts, which is obviously very important. But what we fail to realize in terms of, let's say, the psychological aspects or behavioral aspects is that there is a very important component which if you don't work on that, your plan will most likely fail, because the way the human mind works is many things happen at the subconscious level. So in this sense, it's very important to accompany your employees on this process and understanding that being scared of AI and all the it's normal, because it's a normal reaction to be scared of the unknown. So it's not perhaps as much as being scared of AI, but being scared of something that we still haven't had the chance to become familiar with. So in this sense, I would say it's very important that if you plan to adopt AI in your organization, do not only work on the objective aspects, which are critical, of course, but also on the psychological assistance and empowerment of the employees.
That's a really interesting thing. And I guess, you know, we always hear the notion of someone or organizations that work towards building a learning culture, and organizations that are advanced in learning their working cultures. They tend to move more towards or want to be more of a growth mindset organization, and others that have a more fixated, a more fixed mindset are the ones who lag. So I guess I'd love to hear your point of view about that.
Yeah, so normally, like from a psychological or coaching perspective, I would
Yeah.
differentiate between, let's say, a powerless state or mindset and, and an empowered mindset. This differentiation can also be applied in the context of AI. So someone who feels in the powerless mindset will most likely be characterized by fear, blockages, not seeing possibilities, whereas in the empowered mindset, we see more the possibilities and we feel more accountable and more empowered. And then this is important because, but let's say like how to transition between these two, right? There is something in between that prevents us from moving to this more empowered mindset.
Mhm.
And this cannot be resolved solely, but telling your employees, yeah, yes, let's adopt AI, it's fine, it's fine. No, you need to work on the psychological aspect, which is it's composed of it's a three-step process. So the first step is to identify what's preventing you from reaching this empowered mindset. In the case specific of AI and robots, this is normally associated with the fear, but this fear is rooted in things such as, for instance, science fiction, or there are certain limiting beliefs and unconscious biases that are not good for us. And I'll tell you some examples. So let's say if I believe AI is only for computer scientists, or AI is only for males, or anything that might be in your subconscious that you are not
Yeah.
aware of, or AI will steal my job. So of course, this belief will create resistance, right? It's normal. However, the important thing is to understand that beliefs are not something. It's not a fact. It's not objective. It's not an objective thing. It's a subjective. So it doesn't mean that it will happen or not happen. It means that it's a belief that because it's limiting, it's not helping you, and it's not the optimal belief to have because it will prevent you from reaching this empowered state. Um, Therefore, the next thing is like once you identify these beliefs or these limiting beliefs and biases, you want to challenge them. Not only you to your employees, but you to yourself. Like if I have a limiting belief around anything, it's good to ask myself, okay, let's say, what could be a more empowering approach to AI, instead of thinking, for instance, okay, AI will steal my job. Can I think something like, okay, if I adopt AI, how can AI can complement my skills at work, for instance, right? So it's a bit about not being dismissive about any belief because it's just a belief, but maybe approaching the situation from a more empowering approach. And then finally, creating a culture as a third step, a culture for the organization that is healthy, like that contributes to create a healthy coexistence with AI in the organization,
Yeah.
so people don't feel threatened about it.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a tool. It is a tool that will help us become better, more intelligent, more empowered. It is not, of course, some jobs will disappear, but the other jobs will evolve. So even if a job will is done in one, two, three, it should be done in ABC. So I agree with you on that. But help me understand, is there a generational aspect to the behavioral influence? What I mean by that is, in between now and 2030, workplaces will continue to have a mix of generational representation. So Gen X will continue to exist, millennials will be more, and then Gen Zers will be even more. So given this generational distribution, what are some of the things that businesses need to be smart about to approach and think about this generational inclusion, if I can call it that?
That's a very interesting question. What I think is like the newer generations have especially like a different, let's say, set of values that so a different ranking of what they value more. And something I've noticed is, for instance, in terms of psychological well-being, this is something that they are definitely ranking higher in their priorities when it comes to choosing their workplace. So definitely this is a thing that companies should be taking into consideration if they want to attract younger talent. The other thing that I am imagining it might happen, or a trend that I'm observing, is that we are observing this increase in different lifestyles are becoming more popular, like digital nomads, remote employees. So the way I'm imagining the future of work or communities is that we will be more connected by values and group by values. So rather than being so geographically defined by our geographies, as it's happening in the present, I'm imagining like because digital life will become more and more important, the way that we will create our communities and feel connected to certain companies or to certain groups is going to be more related to if we feel aligned to certain mindsets.
That's so interesting. This notion of being flexible with work from anywhere concept needs new skills, right? And given the fact that what you just explained, generationally we have different priorities, but then because we're working remotely, we need to acquire all these new different ways of or styles of working. So I agree with you. And then finally, from your perspective, if you wanted to leave some food for thought for our listeners or our viewers, what would those 2 cents be from your learnings and all the experiences that you've had over the years in working on the science aspect of behavior?
One of the things, so in my case, I was a scientist for 15 years working on promoting the positive aspects or the positive applied uses of emerging technologies. And I think it's always very important to highlight that technologies are not good or bad on themselves, but it's really about the uses that we want to give them. So it's important to understand that we as humans have the power to decide, let's say, if, how, when, and for what we want to use each technology. So it's not the technology itself.
That's very interesting. Laura, it's been an amazing discussion. Thank you for making time. And I'm sure I personally have learned a lot. I hope our listeners enjoyed this, and hopefully we'll do it sometime soon again. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for the invitation.